And so, speaking of which, Tony Khan being a little bit incompetent, he gets asked by Brandon Thurston on whether he paid for CM Punk's medical expenses after all this shit Tony talked about, healthcare for the wrestlers and all this stuff, the triceps injury. Here's the media call. This is what Tony Khan had to say.
I was wondering if you could clear up something that was raised in Punk's interview a few weeks ago. He said that he personally paid for all of the medical expenses related to his 2022 triceps injury. I was wondering, can you say if there's any truth to that? And more broadly, is there a policy that AEW pays for medical expenses related to injuries that happen at AEW?
We typically do pay those expenses. I'd have to look into that. I can't say for sure. It doesn't sound right to me if that is
like, you're the fucking boss, dude. Jesus Christ.
The case, then I would reimburse them. Honestly, I didn't think that was the case, and it doesn't sound right. So I would have to look into that. That's a good question, but doesn't, typically we do cover those medical expenses, especially for something that occurred in the.
This is what I mean. He's just so far. Like, how would he not? Typically we do, but I don't know about my top fucking star in my company if I paid for his tricep surgery. That means
he gave his own show.
Just say I paid.
Ask Mega or do we ask Rocket? Who do we ask these questions to? You're involved in everything. You should know these things because you're the first person to tell somebody that we have the best policies, and I would put it against any amount of money that AEW has the best policies against anyone.
Professional wrestling.
They're the safest place in professional wrestling, and
it's incompetence. And this is what pisses me off too when I talk to the boys and people are like, no, they just didn't drive to Nashville or whatever. No, I talked to these guys, man. You got to understand. They were being told, we just talked about shaky booking. The boys were being told, they asked, are we booked? We don't know yet. Okay, we'll wait and hear. Like, they're getting told different things like, we don't know yet. As of now, you're not booked. You'll be booked, like whatever. And then out of nowhere, after years of working in Ring of Honor with different under Tony Khan's regime and the old ROH regime, out of nowhere, without any warning, they just get like flights to Nashville. And then when they asked about it, they were like, we'll give you new flight information, which they provided receipts on. And then they never received the flight information. So that's that travel geek who left CM Punk at the fucking airport in London, guys. That's what
I was just about to say.
The Mega Con and all, like, these are the people they're emailing. These people who have been fucking, not, this wouldn't be the first time their incompetence. They've been accused of such things. Let's just put it that way. I'll leave it at that. So, So sorry, Marty, what you were just going to say.
If you're not Japanese or Caucasian, it doesn't seem like they pay that much attention to you.
Yeah.
Because I always say on that part, there's like the issues, and that's why with the Punk thing, I was so shocked because they have a tendency to not care about women's division or people of color. That's why I was happily
immediately.
Yeah, no, I was happily shocked that they stepped up. For I'm not blanking on her name. What was Nyla? Like they stepped up for Nyla. I was like, oh wow, look at them trying to beat the allegations. I love that. But he loves wrestling, and I love ECW, and I love Ring of Honor, and that's why I bought it, even though I barely have what I have now figured out. It's like, okay, you have all this talent there that is there, like what Athena's doing there is amazing, and no one fucking knows about it. They are ruining Shane Taylor, like how they're treating the boys, who at this point are like staples of Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
and just what. People have paper trails. Like people can prove this. Like, and when you ask him these questions, he just, well, I don't know. I don't know.
He should have a grit. It just shows poor leadership. I mean, there's a billion examples. We're gonna keep covering it on this show until someone gets a grip of things. Paul Nolan, what do you think about pretty much what Punk? Like, Tony doesn't know. He doesn't know.
I'm just waiting for Punk to produce the receipts and invoices proving that he did in fact pay for the medical treatment.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like reversing the whole brawl out thing. I mean, or should I say, brawl in type situation. Absolutely hysterically funny. Like, this guy does not know his arse from his elbow.
And it should be noted too that the boys also said that, like, that was in their messages, like, oh, if we rent a car, they're like, oh, rent a car and drive to Nashville, you'll be reimbursed, bring receipts. And they're like, yeah, but we got chewed out for that before, so we didn't want to just do that again. We were waiting.
We couldn't rent a car because some fucking dickhead with an afro.
Because Jack Perry tried
he smashed the fucking window.
Oh
Jack,
my!
Don't get us started on fucking Perry.
Oh man. So then Tony Khan discussed potentially stepping down as AEW booker in the future, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we can't do it together, or we can't do it forever. We'll one day we all can't. We have to stop. I'm only 41, but he's always talking. Wrestling's 52 weeks a year, no off season.
I've never seen him and Mickey Mouse in the same room at the same time, but
me neither. Yeah, prove me right, prove
I'm
me
just-
wrong. And
I'm
so
just
we
saying.
talk about his incompetence, and the guy shows the guy shows the Jack Perry footage, right, with CM Punk. They scrap, and we have numbers on the shit, man. So here's at the Rajgiri. The numbers were back to their recent regular range this past Wednesday. Dynamite averaged 762K viewers, dude. And this is the go home show. So why didn't they show the tape on the fucking go home show at least and try and
why
promote
did they
the
show
pay-per-view?
the tape?
They're so
period?
stupid. Why'd they show it in the first place? So this shit, they just dropped down. Tony wasn't touting the numbers. They like to say, oh, touting the numbers. Everything was down 13%. Everything's down. There's 760 fucking AEW fans. Less than, like, some of them are just like, how many? I don't know. It just proves Punk is in WWE. Jack Perry's in New Japan. They are AEW's biggest draw. Punk is still their biggest fucking draw. He's not even there. It's so goobery, and it just shows Tony's incompetence. I play the flute for Meltzer. I need like a trombone or something for Tony because I don't know. I'll just give him one of these.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse drop.
I'll give him
Like the Family Guy one?
Yeah,
I'm sure.
But
Pretty
yeah,
sure.
what do you guys think of that? Ratings back down to normal. The shit, it drew nothing. It drew nothing.
Just, do you remember the GIF I sent you on Twitter, Phil? It was just like this fighter jet just crashing and burning.
Yep.
This show is crashing and it's burning. And when we talk about the Forbes stuff later on,
I was just gonna bring that up next. Actually,
I
yeah.
mean, it's absolutely nonsense that, you know, they're down year on year, they're trending downwards. You know, they actually annoyed a lot of people who were probably consistent viewers.
Well, for the listeners who don't know, Forbes valuated AEW at $2 billion. They valuated WWE at $6.3 billion. I want, or $6.8 billion or something. And then they considered it a combat sport, of course, UFC being king. There's no way AEW's worth more than like some of these top ranked boxing promotions that fucking are doing huge super fights right now in Saudi Arabia and shit. That makes no fucking sense, man. But maybe it does. I don't know. People say Forbes shills to AEW. I don't know. They just showed that, like, they wrote CM Punk defeats Jack Perry in a backstage video. Like, we showed that on the last show. But I don't. To me, I think it's a joke. So I guess we can get into that. Yeah, Paul Nolan, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say, because isn't it Alfred Kanua who writes for Forbes on the wrestling? Like, he's written for them in the past. So that's where a lot of that tone kind of comes from. But yeah, I mean, like, it's laughable to me, like, being a UK guy, being into boxing and combat sports, that AEW is apparently worth 3 times as much as Matchroom boxing.
It just doesn't make sense.
I'm gonna call it that's cap. That's
Marty,
cap.
what do you think? $2 billion? Do you think AEW is worth $2 billion?
1 point. I'll give him over like a bill. I'll give him that. I'll give him $1 bill. Even and a lot of that.
Like, without their TV, what are they worth? Like, they're worth whatever Tony's willing to spend of his dad's money. That is the $1 billion I'm giving them. Yeah.
Outside of that, it's reminding me. Do you remember that time, that like brief period? Of course, they were never going to compete, but you know, as for sake of an example, you remember when TNA? This was like right before like Hogan fucked it up, where they had that goodwill when they were trying to like combat Raw at the time, which wasn't all that great at the time with Mondays, and they started with all this goodwill, and then you just saw the train just slowly starting to veer and come off the tracks, or like mid '98 WCW, you just see it. It's like it had all this goodwill and all this potential, and then the owner with no vision just starts to sear, just bam, and they're still here because of people's resentment with the Fed so much, that their ability to be so anti because it's cool, or to just hate the Fed so much, even though that they're watching. That's why they always have something to say on what's going on.
Yeah,
that's what's going to keep them around. Well, that and unless Tony's dad just says fuck this, I give it, if it keeps going the way that it's going, I give it 2-3 years before his dad's like, make something of this, or you take it and you spend your money on it, because it's the storylines are non-existent. The favoritism is borderline nepotism at this point. They're not even trying to hide it. Everything is an inside fucking joke. It's just this big circle jerk of all these inside jokes for these shows that nobody watches, based on like internet shit. The Bucks, it's dying, but I don't see it completely going away just because people's resentment and hate is just so strong.
No, it won't
and it's
go
giving
away,
them an outlet for it. It won't go away, but it's never going to be 2 million. You're fucking crazy.
Yeah, I tweeted out and it triggered some people. I said, "Yo, WCW sold for fucking 4 million at the end of the day." So what Forbes is gonna Forbes, they can say whatever, it's worth whatever. It doesn't really matter, you know.
Was that? I don't think that was Alfred though, because he calls them out on their shit. I love it.
Yeah. So
no, it wasn't Alfred. No,
it wasn't Alfred. No, it wasn't Alfred. But the PFL bought Bellator for less than 100 million.
Yeah.
In the end,
from like Viacom.
Forbes were valuing it at over 500 million. And then there was that rumor going around, like Dana was interested in buying Bellator, and he laughed it out the park because they said, "Oh, the rumored price is 500 million," and Dana was like, "Get the fuck out!"
And what do you get? Contracts and what? Like a tape library of like, I guess the tape library is where it all comes. Like ultimately, is where the most value comes from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But just also to reiterate, like to Marty, if he's not heard me say this before, but it's worth reiterating on this podcast. You can't start a new business based on the shitness of another business. You just encourage the competition to be less shit, and that's all that's happened here. And honestly, they've had a few sort of, from the AEW perspective, a few unfortunate things happen, mostly to do with the fall of Vince McMahon and the rise of a certain Mr. Levesque. But that being said, they were on the road to sorting themselves out long before the Vince stuff happened. And all they've done is poke the bear, and they now have absolutely no advantage, and these numbers prove it.
So quick
They're
prediction.
Not trying to be the alternative. They're not trying to be the alternative anymore.
Well, that's the thing. Like on this past Dynamite, they 100% ripped off like the WWE camera angle where they walked down the ramp and walked around, did the long continuous shot around the ring.
To them, it's trolling.
And here's the thing. They could have they're trolling. Yeah, you're right. Either they're trolling or what they're doing is they're just playing catch up. Like they could have been the ones to be innovative like that and started shooting wrestling the way WWE's doing it now, but they're not fucking. He's Vince. He's Vincing himself. He's not. It's ridiculous. But
hiring all the people that leave. That's what they're doing. They hired the agents. They hired the technical guys. They even hired the artist, the Rob Schoenlenberger or whatever.
Tony Khan said, "I'm not going to be like make the mistakes of all these old wrestling companies," but then he literally isn't making the mistakes of any one of them. He's making the mistakes of all of them combined. It's fucking hilarious. It's like
he's being a dollar store Eric Bischoff.
Yeah, the most epic fanboy shit ever. But really quick predictions, guys. So Evil Dose is saying that Warner's not interested. A friend of the show, Evil Dose, he's been saying he has a leak at Warner and knows about this and that, and he can break it down. He's an intelligent dude. He's breaking down all these numbers and shit, but he said that the deal's already off the table. AEW won't be with WBD anymore. They're not interested. To me, they're marketing True TV as their new sports and entertainment brand. I think Dynamite's going to end up on True TV. That's what I think.
So,
and they're going to get
very
money.
Impact era.
They're not going to get the 4 times the money that they were fucking talking about, but they're going to get like a chunk of change. The fans will cope, and they'll end up on True TV. Really quick, you guys,
Impact.
do you guys think True TV, or do you think they're off WBD, or do you just think they'll stay on wherever they're at, TBS?
Well, their exclusivity period for negotiations is like very, very imminent, isn't it? It's like it's up
End of the
within
month.
days, end of the month.
Yeah,
so we'll know more at the end of the month, but I can't see it. I just can't see it. Eric Bischoff on his wonderfully new titled show, Wise Choices, which he took from Tony, which I thought was hilarious.
Love
he
it.
did a big breakdown of their YouTube metrics, and even their
I listened to the whole thing, man.
metrics
Me
are
too.
dive bombing off a cliff. So they can't even go to
go and
bat
listen
with
to that podcast, guys. 83 weeks. Eric Bischoff
amazing.
sits down with the guy who blew up the UFC's YouTube channel. He's worked with other big YouTube channels. I've done work like that on YouTube channels before, some in the wrestling space as well. And he actually helped TNA build their channel up, which that's what created their whole boom and why they went back to TNA. I tried to tell you guys this. It's because the algorithm liked their TNA shit. They started banging on YouTube and Google searches and shit because they got their social media on point because of this guy, and all the retro TNA shows. People were like watching them every Tuesday and shit. Like they'd make it a routine. Like they were beating AEW like 4 months out of the year. How is that possible? TNA's YouTube was, man. And the guy breaks it down on Eric Bischoff's show. Like since Punk left, 1-to-1, their AEW's YouTube just plummeted off a cliff.